All right. Are you ready for the question?
No, of course not. I'm never ready.
This one comes from Isaiah.
Okay.
Why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people?
So Isaiah has an easy question, I see. Yeah, this may be the question, like the real serious center existential question that people ask is mostly, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do children get cancer? The Holocaust? Why will there be a certain number of people that starve right now while you and I make this video? Like, why is that going to happen? I think the most honest, basic, and clear answer that anybody could give you that is sort of a thinking person, as a feeling person, is I don't know. I don't. I want to know, because there are so many times when I personally am having to deal with this right here. Why is this bad thing happening to this person that I love? And the truth is, there's a mystery here, and I wish I knew what it was. Now, there's a couple of other answers that are sort of helpful to me. One in particular is a way of thinking about it that actually has given me a structure. And in that structure, I can often find some stability. But I don't want to move too far or too fast away from the real mystery of I don't know. In other words, what I'm about to tell you, it might be helpful. It's been very helpful to me, but it's not an answer for everything. It just isn't. That question is, everyone will face it. And I don't want anybody to turn around and use this as a trite answer for somebody going through something that's terrible. But if it helps you, as it helped me, I'll tell you. When I was in seminary, there was a terrorism act. It was terrorism from within our country. Everyone may remember, or you've read about it. It was the Oklahoma City bombing. I happened to be at home studying in seminary at the time. And what I remember on TV were a series of things, because I just looked up. I have a little bit of ADD. I don't know if you can have a little bit of that, but I have a little bit of that. And so I looked up and I was watching TV and I saw this building that was smoking, and I had no idea what was going on. And then all of a sudden you start getting all the details. And then I found myself standing there, and I turned it up. That's when you had a thing like this. And I turned it up, and they were going through all these different people, and I remember the reporter all of a sudden was talking to a woman, and there was a school, like a preschool, a daycare maybe, on the bottom floor of the building. And she had lost a child. And, I know the reporter was doing their job, but my gosh. Kind of, how are you feeling was the question. I don't really know. But I do remember part of her answer was the only thing that gave her some peace, even though she'd lost her child, right? A bomb had killed her child. And I'm standing in the middle of this room thinking about all these God things, reading all this Bible stuff, trying to become a pastor. And she said these words, or something like it. Well, the only thing that gives me a little peace is knowing that this is the will of God. And I thought, nope, I am out. I don't want to have anything to do with being a pastor. If it's true that that's the will of God, then I don't want anything to do with it. And so what I did at the time, what I would normally do, I eventually called my dad. My dad said, what's going on? I told him, I said, I'm quitting seminary. I'm abandoning it all. I'm furious. This can't be real. And he said, before you quit, let me send you a book. And the book was great. And it's by a guy named Leslie Weatherhead. And it's called The Will of God. Now, a part of the power of this story that was really helpful to me was knowing who Leslie Weatherhead was. Now, Leslie Weatherhead was a pastor in London during World War II. So what he would do at night was he would go up into these towers and sound the horn as the Luftwaffe, the Nazi planes, would come to bomb about anything in England. And so he would send, by sounding that alarm, people down into the cover, and they'd go into the blackout so that nobody could see people, those kinds of things. And then during the day, amongst many other things, one of the things that he would do is he would go and identify bodies that had been killed the previous night. And then he would preach on Sunday morning. And as a pastor that's preached for a long time, preached after 9/11, throughout this pandemic, everything else, right? After the face of crisis and joy and the whole thing. The idea of doing that week in and week out makes me think a lot of him. And one of the things that he had to deal with was this question over and over and over. Why do bad things happen to good people? And the reverse could be said. Why do good things happen to bad people? How is this the will of God? Here's what he said. He said, we think of the will of God in a really thin way, in a shallow way, in limited way. In fact, here's the way to think about it. If I said, here's a word or an idea that we think of in a really complicated way. We think of the word love in a really complicated way, because you could say you love pizza and you love your dog and you love your mom and you love your favorite movie. And each one of those, you know, inside of you is a different thing, but it's the same word. And yet when we use the phrase will of God, we just throw it all around. It's crazy town. What if we got as subtle and as complicated about understanding the will of God as we did about something like love? And shouldn't we? Well, Leslie Weatherhead, in the face of the things he was dealing with, did just that. People have broken it down past this, but I'm simple. I need 3 things. He does 3. Read the book. It's really thin. It's paperback often, cheap, online. You'll find it. And you can argue with that too, and that's even better. But here's the help for me. He actually said that there are 3 basic ways to understand the will of God. The first is the intentional will of God. What does God intend in the world? Now in the Bible, what we can see is what God intends is for our relationship with Him and the earth around us and each other to be what we call shalom, peace, love, interactive harmony, everything in a good space. That's God's intention. That's how it works in creation. That's what God wants for us. That's why we don't like it when bad things happen to good people, and we don't like it when good things happen to bad people, because we know deep inside of us, like in our spiritual DNA, that it's not right. We have this weird compass inside of us that tells us that, what God intends for us. Then, and here's where you can fight with God, and I have often, God gives us a gift. Not everybody believes this, but I do wholeheartedly, and I believe the Bible absolutely is a foundation for that, and that is God gives us free will, the ability to choose. What in the world you're going to give people? God gives you the ability to choose your life, me the ability to choose my life. We don't even know. Like we're walking through the world trying to choose, and so we get this choice. Immediately we blow that. Immediately we blow the choice because we don't know what we're doing. We get this great power, this incredible invitation, and we start to break things, big things, ourselves and everyone around us, because immediately we sort of choose for God not to be the center anymore. We kind of choose that we are. It's the most natural human broken thing we do. Well, what Weatherhead says is that the circumstances that come from that, which we call sin, and my friend Jay Huffman, he says sin is saying no to God. I just think that's a really helpful, simple definition. When sin is the circumstances that we live in due to that choice that we have, free will, then is it God's will? Yes, it's His circumstantial will. He's given us power to choose, to have freedom, to have real relationship with Him and each other. It's incredibly beautiful, but it's incredibly problematic, like a lot of problems. So it is circumstantially God's will because of the choice that He gives us. So was it God's will that that child died in Oklahoma City? It was His circumstantial will. But was it His intention? Absolutely not. But what does that bring us to? The third piece. So helpful. This one is the ultimate will of God. What it means, as it says in Romans, is that God is going to work out everything for good for those that trust, believe, follow, right? So here's this picture that what God immediately does is God says, I'm going to put together this beautiful world in which shalom, peace with each other, and everything that comes with it is the intention. That's going to be my hope. Now I'm going to give you this incredible gift of choice. And those circumstances are going to create a lot of problems because I want you to be genuinely free. I want you to be where we're looking for being a free people, freely worshiping a free God. Like this is supposed to be the beauty. But in order for that to happen, I have to allow you to choose not to. Freedom means that you get to choose not to. But then God immediately begins to take all of these broken things and to mend them one at a time. The Hebrew is tikkun olam, to restore to harmony all the broken pieces. God's ultimate will means that God then immediately begins to take all of our broken things and restore them to harmony. Not too long after I remember all that craziness, I was a youth pastor at the time, and I took my youth group up to Oklahoma City, and we were doing all kinds of mission work while we were up there. And it was great fun in the evening and lots of work during the day. But one of the things that we did is we made a point of going down, however many months later it was, to the building. And the building had become this beautiful sacred place with pictures all over the fences and stories of all of the people that had died in a memorial. And I remember standing there still looking at the wreckage because it hadn't been fully cleaned up yet, and watching all of these young folks, all those students that I loved, and we all were dealing with the pain that had happened. We were all learning and becoming. We were also realizing that in this city and at that time, it had become stronger and more beautiful around the energy of repairing and restoring all of those broken places. If you look close, you'll almost always see what Mr. Rogers called the helpers. In every difficult thing, there are people that are taking action to make something better. So I don't really know why bad things happen to good people or good things happen to bad. As it says in the Bible, it rains on the righteous and it rains on the unrighteous. I don't know why that is. But I do think that there is something about us becoming something more. That there's this gift that God has given us, and this mystery of this ongoing story, as painful as it often is, has a beautiful, promised, hope-filled ending called Shalom, the restoration of all broken things. And I believe that.